Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from McFarlane Toys, we are featuring the DC Direct Page Punchers, the Atom. Okay, so there's been a handful of characters in the DC universe who've been the Atom. I think one of the most notable ones is Ray Palmer, but this version here of the Atom is actually character Ryan Choi. I believe Ryan Choi was first introduced into the DC Universe back in, I think, either 2006 or 2009. But he formally became the Atom during the Rebirth era. And this is his costume. One easy way to identify Ryan versus Ray Palmer is that Ryan, he has that helmet with the visor dome in the front. So this is Ryan Choi. So this figure, it represents Ryan as he appears in the exclusive Flash comic book, which we see right here, which is included with the action figure. Great looking image of the toy right here. Other figures in the line include Heatwave, Gorilla Grodd, Captain Cold, and the Flash. Previously, I reviewed the Flash and Captain Cold. Wonderful, wonderful figures. And I expect nothing less from this guy right here. To be honest, I'm kind of surprised that we got the Ryan Choi Atom before we got the Ray Palmer. Just because we've been getting some legacy classic characters lately. Like we got the classic Martian Manhunter. There was the classic 2-pack with Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. And for me, it just seems like it'd be a natural progression to get the classic version of the Atom before the much more modern one. But I'm not going to complain. I think this figure looks great. And during the time period when I was reading Justice League some years ago, when they brought on the Atom, I kind of did enjoy Ryan's character. So much like other page punchers, you get the comic book, display base, and the trading card. Alright, so you get, this is pretty nice. You get an extra pair of hands. You kind of get that weird special effect deal that plugs into them, kind of creates that, spinning of the atom, molecules or whatever. But here's the figure, and I'm really impressed with the design and the way they translated, the 2D form into the actual action figure. I say this all the time, but McFarlane, they really deliver the goods when it comes to detail, beautiful texture, wonderful armor. I like the face, but there's something, I don't know, there's something a little bit off about this, and we'll talk about that in a second. Alright, so we're just going to look at the figure with the stock hands that come on the figure. But don't forget, this guy does come with an extra pair of hands. Immediately after I took this guy out of the box, my first thought was, he kind of reminds me of, there was the Batman figure that came out last year. It was the hazmat suit Batman. You might remember there are two versions of the figure. There was the Target exclusive with a light up chest, but you know, this helmet kind of reminds me of that. You know, the Batman with the hazmat suit. And then, you know, just for the hell of it, I'm kind of curious to see how this looks. Here we have the Atom effect. You plug it into his back right there. If it fits, kind of a tight fit. Right, so this is where I take up issue with this. Okay, so the socket here, at least for my figure, it's pretty tight, and I'm having a difficult time trying to plug this peg into the socket. All right, I got it in. Now my issue is, it seems like once you get it in, I'd be careful removing it, because the connection point on the peg with the, you know, kind of like spiral effect, it's pretty thin. So this is one of those pieces where I kind of feel if you're not careful, you might either like warp it, stress the plastic, or, you know, worse, break it. So just a word of caution, you know, this is the kind of thing that once it's plugged in, don't, you know, fiddle around with it too much. You could rotate it depending on which way you want the effect to swirl. So it's pretty cool. I kind of dig this a lot. So it's kind of neat. It's a nice visual. It's kind of cool when a character comes with like a special effect, and I really dig this one a lot. So that's kind of cool. It'd be crazy if they found a way to like you know, like animate it so it actually like swirls around or like teeters back and forth really fast. But I think we're still very far away, you know, from action figure technology reaching that point. But it looks neat, you know, especially if you have this guy displayed on your shelf. You know, you get him in a nice pose, and he looks like he's ready to go, you know, effect in hand, and he's kind of doing his thing. So it's kind of a cool feature. It's kind of like how like Shazam and Black Adam have those lightning bolts. Same with the Flash. You know, it's always kind of cool when they give you that kind of extra bonus. All right, so removing this, you know, just carefully take it out, which might be a problem here. All right, so yeah, I'm not going to be able to take this out unless I grab some pliers. Like I said, don't yank it by the connection, by the, you know, these spiral effect things, because chances are you might wreck it right here at the connection point, which is pretty thin. You know, I kind of wish they found a better way of doing this. So we'll just review the figure with this thing on, which doesn't bother me too much. First off, nice head sculpt. It's not the best. It's kind of weird because it's a clean look, but I don't think it captures the personality of the character. Ryan Choi is a very kind of like youthful looking scientist, and this guy here, he kind of has this like blanked out stare. It almost looks like Professor X, and I'm not sure if it's a result of this plastic dome over his face or if the face is just sculpted that way. But his face looks exceedingly large. It's almost kind of as if you took a magnifying glass over his face and it just made everything look bigger. You know, for some reason, his face just looks larger than it should be. And I don't know, like I said, I'm not too keen. It's a nice sculpt for the face, but I don't think it necessarily does a good job of capturing Ryan Choi. The helmet is nice though, can't complain there. It's sculpted really well, beautiful details. You know, it's kind of like a screened out earpiece. He has these like tubes plugged into his mask. It's nice that the plastic over his face is nice and clear. It's not like fogged out or kind of messy, which could be the case with some clear plastics. Although it looks like there might be some like glue residue underneath, right on his cheek right there. So, you know, this might vary depending on your figure. You know, if you're one of those people that are like me and you like examine an action figure before you buy it, that's just something to keep in mind. You know, just check this out to see if the visor's glued on cleanly onto his head. He has the Atom logo on his forehead, which looks cool. Nice paneling and scribe lines on the armor. Really cool utility belt. It's a nice costume. I dig this a lot. In some ways, if you're like suffering from like like glaucoma or something like that, and you had really poor vision, you know, from a distance, you might think this is like Captain America, you know, with this color scheme. The back is well done also. I'm really digging these pipes that connect to his armor. And again, here's that socket, and you kind of rotate this around. Like I said, this is pretty tight, so I can't just easily pull it out. I'm gonna have to grab some pliers and do that carefully. In terms of his articulation, his head, you know, it just rotates. But it seems kind of like restricted by these pieces, because when I want to turn it left or right, I kind of feel these hoses pulling back, so there is some resistance there. Does he look down? Not really. Does he look up? Not really. His arms rotate. They go out. He has the ball-socketed butterfly joint, which allows for extended range of motion. Bicep cut right there. Double pinned elbows, so he gets full-on elbow articulation. Wrist articulation, you know, it's pretty stock. There he is. He's joining the Dark Order. He has a cut beneath the breast line, so he can swivel at the waist. Could kick up pretty high, surprisingly, which is nice. Could kick out about there, almost full splits. Double pinned knees, ankle articulation, and toe articulation. So it's a very solid figure. Oh man, I just thought of this just now. This looks like so if you're familiar with Valiant comic books from the 90s, there was a character on there, Exo Manowar. And this costume looks almost like Exo Manowar. If you remember the old Valiant comics. Valiant, they produced comics in the 90s. Was it? Yeah, it was Valiant, because they also produced other characters like Archer and Armstrong. Turok, the dinosaur hunter. You know, you might be familiar with that character just because of the video game. But Valiant Comics had their equivalent of Iron Man, and that was Exo Manowar. And in this costume, it really resembles Exo Manowar, especially with the helmet. The only thing is that the color scheme's different. Whereas this guy's blue and red, Exo Manowar was, I think he was like a metallic orange, gold, and blue. So if you're a customizer out there, you know, this could easily be Exo Manowar, if you remember that dude from way back when. But I'm assuming, you know, most of my viewers aren't in that age range, so you know, you might not know who the hell I'm talking about. But this is a fantastic figure. I like the fact that they're really expanding the roster and like digging deep and giving us characters like this. Not that he's a minor league character, but you know, most of the time when you think of like the solid core of DC superheroes, the Atom's not necessarily one of them. But you know, I wouldn't argue that with like a hardcore Justice League fan, because you know, Atom is a key vital member, especially Ray Palmer. But this is great, excellent action figure. If I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, for me, solid 8.5. 8.5 to a 9. I think it's really well done. My biggest gripe is the face. I don't think the face really captures Ryan's likeness or enthusiasm or youthfulness. I don't like that weird blanked out look. But then again, I haven't read the exclusive comic book. You know, if this is how his face looks in a certain panel on the comic, I can't really fault it for that. So, you know, that's just me being subjective. But otherwise, great action figure. It's well worth the purchase if you see it. Especially if you're trying to build up a Justice League with your McFarlane figures, this guy's a must-buy. You know, especially in the Rebirth era, if you want like a more modern roster of Justice League members, you know, this is definitely a purchase. All right, with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.